All right, currently at 9:05, we have cloudy skies. Was anybody else shocked at how cold it was when you woke up?
I was actually shocked at how warm it felt.
Well, there's two phenomenons. One is I was not expecting it to be in the 30s waking up this morning.
Right.
Two, how I wasn't cold when it was. And it got me thinking, is there more of a human cooling than there is a global warming? Because all of a sudden, when it's 30 degrees, I don't need a jacket anymore. I'm just walking around and I don't feel cold. But there was just not a lot of warning that this was coming. I mean, this is unseasonably cooled compared to what we were used to.
Temperatures have been falling, Brother Michael, since I got up at 2 this morning.
Yeah.
They've been going down ever since.
Cloudy and 39 waking up in Nashville at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm waiting on the market with all this conversation about the banks. We actually were talking off the air. Should we have a special Peter St. Unge on Monday, or can it wait till Wednesday? Mine is not updating. Do you have the market?
I've got mixed. Dow up 96, S&P down 5, NASDAQ up just a fraction.
Nice assist. Well, I was talking about with Mac. I may have, Dan Mandis hasn't been back, 5 minutes, and he's already yelled at me. I think.
Oh, no.
I have led more people to the movie Jesus Revolution than I led to Christ when the Jesus Revolution went through me. So I'm talking to our ops manager, Charlie, who had the line of the day, by the way. What I meant to say was, it's those early feelings of faith that were so precious, that you just, as you mature, it just changes. And so I told him, I said, you will fall in love with Jesus all over again. He looks me in the eye and he goes, I never fell out of love. I was like, great line, Charlie, but I'm trying to close you on this movie. And then all of a sudden, Mandis goes, Michael! It's 9:04, man. Oh, glad you're back. So Mac and I were talking. I'm in a terrible position right now because everything in my opening monologue points to things I could get in trouble for. And again, they're trying to figure out medically what's wrong with me. All I can tell you is my heart is great and my arteries are wide open. Other than that, they can't quite figure anything out.
Good.
So they have to, one of the things that all this anxiety coming back, they think there's a medical term for this. It's a phenomenon where your medicine just stops working for no reason. It just ran its course and you got to switch to a different one because your body just no longer allows it to work. So I only take antidepressants now because I knew he was depressed. This whole Jesus thing is a fraud. I developed. I like to anticipate what the super text line will say before it starts heckling.
No one's even done this yet.
No. I like to beat him to it. But I had pneumonia very young when I was 25 years old, and the feeling of suffocating. I never quite got over, and so I didn't think there was anything. I thought, the pneumonia's over and I'm fine. And then I got in a stuffy room one time, and all of a sudden I felt like I was having a heart attack. And that's when I got diagnosed with anxiety disorder.
Yep.
But it used to be, it would take you'd have to simulate hard to breathe to trigger it. And then it got to a point where I was like, well, I happen to work a lot in homeless shelters, and I can tell you a lot of them are there because of Xanax. So I avoid Xanax like it's heroin. So they said, well, we can put you on an antidepressant, and that'll probably keep it from ever happening. So that's what I've been on ever since, and now they think they'd started working. So they weaned me off. So it's like I'm re-meeting myself.
Maybe you're having a reaction to being weaned off.
Well, no, well, that is definitely happening. I took Nick on our normal drive yesterday. I'm teaching him how to drive. Mm-hmm. And, Nick just can't bring himself to go the speed limit. And
too slow?
Oh, yes.
Really?
Oh,
and I'm
going to say too fast.
So
Wow.
I sit up there and go, Nick, you're 20 below the speed limit. Accelerate. And he would, he's just so hesitant to go faster.
Yeah.
And I realized, this is the real me without antidepressants. I'm really. So last night we had a situation where we had company in town, and I know the one little girl only likes pepperoni pizza. So the teenagers were having a Bible study. They get out of Bible study just as the pizza arrives. And the pepperoni's just gone. And then there's this Hawaiian that they wanted that nobody's touching. And this little girl only eat pepperoni. And so I find myself coming unglued over, and then Pam's looking at her one piece of pepperoni, and I'm giving her the stink eye. And I'm just so I'm getting used to who the real me is. And I'm really not as nice as I usually am. medicated. But to make a long...
Did she get the pepperoni?
No, she got one piece, and they ate all the pepperoni. And I just couldn't let it go all night long.
I feel bad.
So I'm going to warn everybody, don't... I'm trying to... how do you say piss me off?
Don't piss me off.
Don't piss me off today. I'm very short-wicked. But I got news for you. I was livid over them stiffing Vanderbilt. And I'm talking real anger. I want to go find this committee and shake the snot out of them and try to figure out what the hell they're thinking.
Now, what's going on with that?
I mean, Vandy got shafted. I think Texas got shafted.
A&M.
Or Texas A&M.
Yeah.
I mean, just all these shafts. It didn't make any sense. And then the Oscars come on, and I'm like looking for someone to hate. And they behaved all night long till the end. Then they couldn't resist. So I was telling Mac, what do? I got banks failing, which what was that, a 20-minute conversation? Not a 10-second conversation? I've got March Madness and brackets. They'll yell at me for doing sports. And then I've got all these little like selfish stories I want to tell. And then, before I even get on the air, Mandis is yelling at me. It's 9:04. So I'm just like too paranoid. But I think what's coming up is a very selfish opening monologue. Like if you've never been driving in the car and somebody on the radio is just doing something that only interests them and you're like, man, this is selfish. If you've never experienced that, you're about to, because all my topics are going to get me in trouble. That's next. But that, and I couldn't get the Wall Street numbers to update for me. But,
I got your back on that, Brother Michael, if you ever need it.
Yeah, we got the Dow up 83, NASDAQ's up 2, and the S&P's down 5. It's 39 degrees with cloudy skies, and it's Monday, March the 13th. Here we go. PAI Medical, if you want to look better and feel better about yourself, this is the year to grow your hair back. But you got to make the first move. We have the finest surgeons, the latest technology and results, all awaiting you right here in the heart of Brentwood, Tennessee. Now, that shouldn't shock you. We're an epicenter of entertainment. In fact, when you go to We Grow Hair, PAI Medical in Brentwood, we're the only company in the state of Tennessee that has the PAI multi-unit hair grafting procedure. This is a trademarked procedure. What does it do? It gives you more hair in one procedure. What does that do? Saves you a ton of time and a ton of money, and no one else has it, backed by the only company I trust. Your looks are too important to go anywhere else. But in addition to surgery, we have many, many non-surgical solutions that really work, like nutrient-rich plasma, especially with women, very effective. What's best for you? That's the best part of our story. You sit down for a private consultation that is absolutely free, no obligation, and quite frankly, fascinating. Make this the year you get your hair back. Natural results with a company you can trust. PAI Medical, We Grow Hair. Call 376-6010, 615-376-6010 to set up your free private consultation. 376-6010, online at wegrowhair.com. By the way, that's how the whole conversation started. I don't know why. I can never get where Charlie's from straight. I could have swore that Charlie for the longest time was from Chicago. And that's what we had in common. And then I find out, no, I lived in L.A. And I'm like, oh. So then today I go to talk to him about the Jesus Revolution. I said, man, you were probably in L.A. at that time. No, I'm from Michigan. And I'm like, so I just found out at Dan's wedding, I'm not going to give his real name or anything, but Charlie is Sicilian. He's Italian, just like me.
There we go.
And
There's
then
the common.
we find out we're both from Michigan. I'm from Flint. And
What do you know about that?
but isn't that the line of the day? Oh, you'll fall in love with Jesus all over again. Well, I never fell out of love with him. Well, that's... So I just took the 4 spiritual laws and put them right in my back pocket. And I figured, well, I don't need to do that. He's never fallen out of love. I did, the Oscars is an interesting conversation. There's been a lot of damage done. Not the least of which, or there's nothing really more fascinating I can say, quite frankly, than they're irrelevant. I don't think Hollywood has figured out yet that America is deep in a social dilemma. In other words, they think they're celebrities because they're posting online. So the fascinating, now you've been living this your whole life. I don't even think Mac has experienced what the rest of us are really talking about. A time where Hollywood stars, it was a big deal.
Oh, yes.
And they were bigger than life, and they were living a life so much greater than ours, and they're so much smarter than we are. And, and all of that has changed. Now, what also happened was they got very woke, and they got very outspoken. And in their outspokenness, they're basically telling you that, our life is better than yours, and you're idiots. Well, that's just not a great way to treat your customers. And so for the longest time, we put up with it. But, this is a world where I don't have to go to the theaters anymore. Although that's another interesting side note. If Nosy Girl were to pop in, she would make. When you think about it, Elvis and Maverick really did bring people back to the theaters. Hollywood owes those two movies a big thank you. Without them, we'd be still not going to the theaters. And both got snubbed last night. I think Maverick got Best Sound, but other than that, completely snubbed. Elvis got nothing.
Really?
And so this is another thing.
Wow.
This is another thing Charlie and I were talking about before I heard 904 DelGiorno. Oh, the Jihad. The Jihad sheets are up. I haven't seen them in person.
Jihad.
So you haven't seen these,
Yeah, we're kind of like the terrorists. We just have a sheet behind us. Wouldn't it be funny if there's somebody just appeared back here with like a...
I think the Jihads have irons, though. We don't.
Can we
seem
get
to have
DelGiorno
those.
down in the management office at 1202? He's making fun of the radio station. No, I'm not. They're nice sheets.
Stop it, man.
What? They are. I might have ironed them. That's just me. I'm a stickler.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's the iron.
Oh.
I don't know that I would have rather the darker one on this side and be more slenderizing for me. So what was I saying? Something about Charlie again, wasn't I?
No.
Amanda's was yelling at me.
No, yeah.
904, man. So, but no, Charlie was like, there's nobody that could watch. How did anybody watch the Oscars? Nobody's seen these movies. And of course we haven't. And then all the surprises, we do a ballot. I don't know why we still do it. I just think it's hilarious that I can guess them all based on wokeness.
Yeah.
So, I'm doing like titles because they're woke sounding and what will win this and that. And of course, themes did develop, and the themes were, I don't have it in front of me right now. Is it Everything Everywhere or something to that effect?
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything, everywhere, all the time.
All at once.
Yeah. All at once.
Yeah, Everything Everywhere All at Once got Best Picture. Best Actress went to Michelle Yeoh. Now, there was some kind of an inside thing there where the guy from CNN must have told her she was too old to win an Oscar or something.
Yeah, I saw something where she had something to say about
Has anybody
Don
had a
Lemon.
worse year than Don Lemon? Seriously.
It's been in the past
It's
couple
been
of
such a
weeks.
bad year for Don Lemon. I feel sorry for Don Lemon. Matt, get him on the show. Let's see if he's seen Jesus Revolution.
Get him on the show.
Don, before we get started, have you seen Jesus Revolution? Best Director went to Daniel Kwan. This is all Everything Everywhere All at Once. I mean, pretty much, you want the summary of the Oscars last night? It was Everything Everywhere All at Once. And nobody got slapped. So it won Best Picture, won Best Actress, it won Best Supporting Actor, it won Best Supporting Actress. I turned to somebody next to me and said, there's something illegitimate about everything all of a sudden. Like Joe Biden in the White House and Jamie Lee Curtis getting an Oscar. Just seemed weird.
Jamie Lee Curtis, an Oscar.
Yeah, original screenplay.
Well, I'll be.
I'll tell you what, if there was anything that the Oscars did make me want to watch, All's Quiet on the Western Front. Was it 1917 was the first World War I movie that was so popular?
I remember that,
Yeah,
yes.
the movie was
So I
great.
went with Chris Medina, and we went alone to watch. I was scarred. That and Private Ryan are two of them. Not so much Full Metal Jacket that everybody quotes, but I went to the theater. I saw Saving Private Ryan. I remember the credits coming up, and I remember not a peep. Dead silence as a completely full theater slowly ushered its way out. Nobody speaking. I'm telling you, I don't want to disrespect any of my real warriors and soldiers and heroes. But I mean, I feel like I had PTSD for a while. That's how real that movie was.
That first half hour.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I mean, and that's how I felt watching 1917. And I know this is unfair to do because, I mean, I would have never, the jungles of Vietnam, guerrilla warfare, I don't know, man, that's bad. The early Revolutionary War things, I forgot what they called it, where you basically marched in line. And, of course, whoever was in the front knew they were getting it.
Yeah.
And then the poor How do you say poor SOB?
Poor SOB.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
the
stick
poor
with
SOB that had drums. I mean, at what point is he playing the drums going, holy, I think I need a gun?
Yeah. Any second now. Boom.
But there is something about trench warfare. And 1917 really brought that to life. You talk about tough war conditions and psychological aspects of that, which makes that whole story. I brought this up last night with some friends that were over. And it was World War I, wasn't it? Where they were all in their trenches. It was Christmas night. The sun fell. The stars came out. And suddenly, some of the American soldiers started singing Silent Night and acknowledging it was Christmas. There was like a little little pause between the shooting. And then all of a sudden, they're hearing the melody of Silent Night in German language coming back at them. I think it's one of the greatest human moments on earth. I really do. Can you imagine what that was like to be a part of? And they're singing Silent Night in the middle of trench warfare in a war. Next thing you know, everybody put their weapons down. Did they play soccer together or something or played some kind of a game together?
Yeah, I thought that was it.
I think it might have been had a ball or something they were kicking around playing soccer with, and they were all intermingling. I mean, literally, the Spirit of God trumped World War on the evening of Christmas. I mean, it's one of the most extraordinary stories ever told. And I don't know what is more captivating to me. The notion that, there's a little pause between bullets and you start hearing Silent Night. I can't imagine what those moments were like, hearing in the distance the song being sung back in a different language, or the oddness of when they were done playing, they went back into their trenches and started shooting at each other again.
Yeah.
It's just there's something about trench. I will say this for them. They've got a long way to go to heal the divides that they've caused. They tried last night. They succeeded until the last half hour that they couldn't help themselves. I don't know that, kind of like when we do our CMAs, and I feel like we make people feel like stars love their fans and the fans love the music, and we sell the industry. The only thing they successfully sold to me last night is I'm going to go watch, not Everything Everywhere All at Once, but All's Quiet which I didn't even know we had done a remake. And I know nothing about it other than it strikes me it might be from the German perspective. Is that possible? Which people forget. Remember Tora, kid, when we were kids?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, that was about the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and it was done from the Imperial Japanese perspective.
Oh, okay.
So that could be a very interesting twist.
Yeah, this is from the German perspective.
Yeah,
this will be cool.
This could be very cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, so I look at Mac and I go, well, we can't talk about Oscars. Our audience will crucify me. I can't do March Madness or management will crucify me. So then I thought about, well, maybe I'll tell the story about my candy ass on my football team. Because now that they figured out all this musculoskeletal stuff that's going on, I have all these stretches I have to do with my shoulder, and it reminds me, we had a player, I can't remember his name. He was number 75 on our JV football team, and he physically looked very intimidating. I remember we would get on the sidelines, and you'd see coaches pointing players. This is like before they go, the mic. They were like targeting him, like, that's the guy we got to stop. Let's double team him. He looks like the only real athlete. Complete candy ass. Complete. But he was always doing this with his shoulders, like, I don't know. I don't think he liked shoulder pads on his shoulders.
Shimmying.
But there was something about the way because he was so big, even though he was a candy, and he would do that, and it looked like this guy was ready to hurt somebody.
Yeah, he was going to pound somebody.
Like he's looking for someone to clothesline. And I was like, no, he just got very sensitive shoulders. So I thought, do I do 15 minutes on how I'm walking around like the candy ass on my JV team, moving my shoulder? So I can't win for losing. We do have banks that are failing, more economic signs that are not positive. I think I have 2 or 3 favorite stories of the day that won't, it's spring break. That's the other thing, everybody. I was listening to 70s on 7 over the weekend, and this guy's doing all stories about his spring break. Yes, I went to Hilton Head. I hitchhiked, and this song was on, and he plays Chevy Van, and I'm like, okay. Did he realize people listening to the 70s on 7 haven't, they don't get spring break anymore. They're either in the nursing home or they're still working. I mean, what are you doing? But there are a lot of people on spring break, and it just feels odd to beat you up on Monday with a bunch of negative news. So I will do my best as a doctor of talkology to massage all of this bad news to the point where it almost makes you feel like it's good news. But yes, disfarming and disgrace is all that lies ahead for all of us. It's 9:25. I'll be here till noon. Miss a little, you'll miss a lot, and we will miss you. King Insurance and Associates. It's an independent agent. That's a big advantage for you. That means they have multiple companies they can shop on your behalf. Now, most are just giving a quote from the company on their business card and sign. We have many, many companies to shop on your behalf. And in our 28 years, we weeded out the non-competitive companies, kept great relationships with the biggest, best, and the highest rated, which is probably how they beat my previous independent agent by 40%. I got better coverage on my home, its contents. My automobiles have since had teenagers, a champion in my corner, and I saved $1,500. Now, another way of looking at it was my previous independent agent was overcharging me $1,500 for inferior coverage for a decade. That was infuriating. I started telling the story. My listeners started saving the same or more, but don't switch because I did or they did. Switch because you should. Whether you're a company, a family, or an individual, you deserve this better coverage. And with inflation, I know you have use for the money you'll save. So get a Royal Review and start saving in days. Make the switch to King Insurance. 329-8121. You got everything to save and nothing to lose. Make the call. 329-8121. 329-8121 or online at tkinginsurance.com.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. President Biden trying to make sure Americans feel confident they can trust the American banking system after the second and third largest bank failures back-to-back since Friday.
Your deposits will be there when you need them. Small businesses across the country, the deposit accounts at these banks can breathe easier knowing they'll be able to pay their workers and pay their bills.
Federal regulators decided to take over Silicon Valley Bank in California when it failed on Friday, then Signature Bank in New York yesterday. Biden says no taxpayer money is being used. He says it's not a repeat of 2008. A run on the border. Calixto Malero describes what he saw when thousands of people tried to cross a bridge into the U.S. from Mexico illegally yesterday.
Everybody was running up the bridge. You could see a lot of police action, a lot of Homeland Security cars going up the bridge. I guess, to what appeared to be to block the path.
No reports of any breaches at any port of entry, but an El Paso spokesperson says they do see large groups still gathered on the Mexico side. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
You guys always like to give me a hard time for being a jinx, and I did say I liked Missouri plus the points against the Vols, and of course they knocked off the Vols. I did joke after that and said, well, now you can expect Tennessee to win by 20. And then Corey takes expect Tennessee to win by 20 and loops it. Everything went just as I thought it would go between Texas A&M and Alabama winning. So, and Alabama, of course, ends up a number 1 seed in the South with a 29-5 overall record. There's your SEC. Purdue may be the best, if not the runner-up best, predictably runner-up best. They're the number 1 seed in the East. At 29-5. Houston, best record, 31-3. But you saw what Memphis did to them, and I've seen them play like garbage during the year. I don't trust, of all the number 1 seeds, best record, I don't trust them the most. Kansas, could we get back-to-back Bill Self and Jayhawks? That's still my pick to click.
Bill Self will be back, right?
I don't.
He'll be healthy.
Oh, well, we hope.
Yeah, should be.
But,
should be.
They look as solid as anybody. I don't have any problem with any of the number 1 seeds. I'm trying to figure out why A&M is a 7 seed. I'm trying to figure out why Vanderbilt didn't even make it. There's some oddities. But then my eyes always go next to the 12 versus 5s. This could be one of those years. It's almost infallible. It goes 50%. That a 12 knocks off a 5. It could go 4 for 4. Charleston and San Diego State in the South. Charleston is 31-3, the 12 seed against San Diego State at 5. I'm loving that. Oral Roberts University, you better look out. And they got a big man to boot. At 30-4 on the season, they got Duke.
Interesting.
In a bracket where North Carolina doesn't even appear, could Duke be gone in the first round in that 12-5 matchup? Then we have VCU and St. Mary's. And VCU went 27-7. St. Mary's went 26-7. Go figure that one. I like that 12 over a 5. And then the other one is Drake and Miami. I don't know if that one's going to hold up for Drake. But Drake manages to have early success as a Cinderella. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting. I really think I'm speechless over Vandy, and was angry for hours. But you know what? I said this to Mac off the air. Now go win the NIT. That's a nice.
There you go.
If you're Stackhouse and you're wanting to build a program, that's not a bad way to do it too. Go win the NIT now. But that's March Madness. Everybody will be starting to fill out their brackets. For the Preds, not a bad West Coast trip. We went 2-2. We won against the Ducks 5-4. Both our wins on the road were in overtime. One in a shootout. But we come home 2-2 against the Red Wings. That'll be tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, Bridgestone Arena. Be watching on Bally Sports. And that's sports in the Talk Station at 9:35. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. At 9:36, Franklin, you have cloudy skies, 39 degrees, cloudy and 39 in Mount Juliet. Down in the borough, the linoleum keeping things warm, 41 degrees. Downtown on Music Row, cloudy skies, 39 degrees. It feels like 32 in Nashville. The Dow's down 46, NASDAQ's up $3, and the S&P is down 12. It's a mixed bag by color, but the market is basically flat at 9:36. A Living in America update is coming up next on WTN. I want to talk to you about Blue Umbrella Medical of Middle Tennessee. If you're frustrated, you call it healthcare, but it's really sick care, and you're still getting no answers and no relief. At best, a new diagnosis you're stuck living with. Well, you'll notice immediately how different things are at Blue Umbrella Medical Center of Middle Tennessee. First of all of our physical therapists, our MDs, our chiropractors, our physicians, holistic physicians, we're all waiting for you in one place. So it's innovative, integrative health solutions. And you're going to notice the state-of-the-art lab testing because we're going to get to root answers, real causes. So you'll get real answers. Then with some very advanced diagnostic equipment, the root cause of your problem. And then we're going to treat it with cutting-edge regenerative treatments. Now, neuropathy is a great example. Acute, chronic, and crippling. We're going to treat it with regenerative treatments, and we're able to stimulate, reactivate, and regenerate the damaged tissue and nerve endings. What does that do? Brings relief, lasting relief. And it's all covered by insurance, and it begins with a free consultation. So if you or someone you love or care for is suffering from neuropathy, pick up the phone and call Blue Umbrella Medical Center of Middle Tennessee. Set up your free consultation today. 610-6937. Actual health care with real results. 610-6937. Online at bluumbrellaMedical.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. You often hear me talk about diversification in the investing process, but how do we diversify? Well, we look for things that move in dissimilar fashion historically. Some of those market areas might be really small companies or really large companies, or very growth-oriented companies or value-oriented companies. And one of the things that we find is that when we diversify between these various segments, we can reduce the volatility of the portfolio because they don't move in tandem with each other historically. Now, we can do that in U.S. markets, we can do that in international markets, and in emerging markets. And when we can dampen that volatility, we can help get ourselves a little bit of a better outcome as far as knowing what we might likely have in the future, or how we can take income from our investment portfolio. Now, we also want to add fixed income or bonds to the mix as well. Now, if we know that we need to do this, what's the best way to do it? Well, one of the things that we often teach is this concept of market efficiency. This won the Nobel Prize in economics as well. And it's the idea that if I'm investing in, let's say, small value stocks, if we look at professional managers and their ability to say, hey, should I have this stock or that one, and picking companies or areas of the market, we find that they typically get lower returns than the market does on its own. They just add expense and they can add a lot of volatility. One of the things we want to avoid is anything that can hurt your returns and increase your risk in the investing process. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or call 615-851-1950.
9:42, 18 minutes before 10 o'clock. Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. I'm Michael DelGiorno, 39. On our way to high of 46, or we already reached our high of 46, and we're on the way down. Time will tell. Dan Mandis, Matt Murphy, Brian Wilson, and myself will all be at an evening with WTN. That's coming up at the Parthenon Grill in Murfreesboro on March the 30th. Delicious dinner from the Parthenon Grill while we broadcast live and give you indigestion. It's really just a shameless attempt. It's been so long since we've all been able to get together. So we're just creating the excuse. I think we could all just use a hug. A hug or a fist pump, whatever you're comfortable with, along with a nice 8-ounce sirloin, which will pair up with a baked potato to your liking. We ought to have Jack Womack from Traffic come in and just go over the entire menu with you.
Yeah.
Tonight we have a couple of specials I need to tell you about. One is a beautiful grilled chicken. We're going to sear that chicken. We're going to serve it at room temperature with a piccata sauce. And we also have an 8-ounce sirloin, succulent and made to the temperature of your choice. That's going to come with fresh bread, a garden salad, and a dressing of your choice with a baked potato to your liking. And everything comes with a drink ticket so you can get liquored up with your favorite talk show hosts. So come do some shots with us. That'll be March 30th at the Parthenon Grill. For tickets or more information, go to 997WTN.com. It is Monday, March the 13th, 2023, living in America. Well, this is a staggering number. 69% of women. I was joking off the air. Mac, I'll give you $10. Because he's younger, I start with a very low sum of money.
Yeah.
Like with Nick, I'll give you $5 if you do this tonight with Hannah. 69% of women don't put enough effort into their workout. 57% of American women said they used to work out more often than they do now. 69% said they don't. This is self-admitted. Yeah, but when I do go work out, I don't put in enough effort.
I don't even try that hard.
Oh, my gosh, I'm a woman. I do the same thing. I could push myself so much harder than I do. What are some of the barriers to working out? According to a recent survey of 2,000 women, feeling tired. I do. I arrive tired and stressed. Exercise difficulty. Well, there's some that burn more than others.
Yeah, I mean, metabolism.
By human experience and genetics, we are designed to gain pleasure and avoid pain. So when you walk in the gym, you either have the outcome that gives you pleasure. I want to look great is stronger than I want to hurt and be miserable for the next hour and 30 minutes. Right? So that's what's winning. Sometimes I'm sitting doing leg presses thinking, gosh, I could go for a cheeseburger. And then it turns south from there. Whether in their 20s, 30s, 40s, or beyond, women's bodies deserve the same level of attention and care. By being proactive and addressing the issues early on, women can maintain and obtain an intimate health throughout their lives. What are the ideal workouts? 43% said aerobic exercise, 38% said lifting weights, 27% said yoga. Well, based on the yoga commercial I see for Gatorade, I do weights. But that's just me. Boy, you talk about the grass is always greener, isn't it? 75% of Americans who moved last year have regrets. Well, I'm thinking your biggest regret might be that interest rate, meathead. That didn't even make the list, right? You probably sold a home with an interest rate in the 3s to buy a home with an interest rate in the 6.
Yeah.
That might be a little bit of regret. All right, but that's a significant number. So 3 out of 4 Americans who moved last year regretted it. Ken knows this. I considered moving last year. And I made the choice not to. And thank God I did. I would have regretted it. If you had second thoughts about moving into that new home in 2022, you're not alone. Oh, there's an opening line that just sucks you right in. 3 out of 4 Americans say that they had regrets about relocating last year. Now, that doesn't say anything about, Ken, if in 2016 you were asked to move to Franklin and didn't. That you could be regretting. No, Brother Michael, there's no linoleum in Franklin. I'm standing put. Regrets include unexpected costs. Oh, moving is a nightmare. First of all, you don't realize how much junk you have till you go to move.
Oh, yeah.
When we moved
Yes.
6 years ago, I mean, that house would not empty. And we were only in it 4 years. Like
You don't
right
even
now,
realize.
that'd be the worst part about moving now. We are really settled in. But so unexpected costs, the moving costs were probably higher than they expected. The hassle of moving, the packing, the lifting, the redecorating and settling. Missing items lost in the move. That's more of a moving state to state. I mean, if you're moving within the city and you're losing a lot of things, you're just not packing very well.
You're not organized.
Honey, did you see the bed? Or simply not liking the... Well, now that one, there's just no excuse for. What's your regret for moving last year? I don't like the new house. What the hell did you do buying it for?
Yeah, what are you doing?
I mean, I made some impulse purchases, but never that. The number one regret was a tie. One, I wished I moved to a bigger place. Well, you know what they say, go big or go home. In this case, literally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Go big and call it home. The other is they miss their old home. All right, so that 20% said, I moved in, I wish we'd have moved into something bigger. And then number two on the list is same regret, 20%, I miss my old house. Why the hell did you move? 19% was third. I wish I'd have gotten rid of more stuff. Well, I told you what Andrew did to me with the shoes. It was scarring. Which, by the way, I've already replaced one of the pairs. I found them online.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm already restocking.
Yeah, it's not
It's an illness. I'm sick. 19% said it was just too much of a hassle. Well, moving is a hassle. Moving is traumatic, man.
Oh, yeah.
It's like
rough.
divorce and death traumatic.
Yes. Yes.
Job change is traumatic, too. It took too long, 18%. It was too expensive, 17%. And I don't like my home was 9th on the list. 10th was I wished I'd moved to a smaller place. So number one on the list of regrets is I wish I'd have moved into a bigger place. Number 10 on the list is I wish I had moved into a smaller place. That's the bookend. Again, like everything else in America, I think we're the problem. Malcontents. This is one of my favorite stories, and it's really short. So retailers are just so excited. People are, we talked about earlier, Oscars was trying to sell what people are going back to the movies. Well, we did. I mean, I went and saw, that wouldn't show up until next year's Oscars, and don't hold your breath, Jesus Revolution. Before Jesus Revolution at the theater, I saw Elvis, which I thought was terrific. And I saw Top Gun Maverick,
Yeah.
which I thought, at first I thought I was going to dread it because I thought it was going to be exactly what I was fearing, just an homage to the first all these years later. And then it took you on a ride, I think, better than the first ride. It was really, really, really good movie, which is interesting and goes back to our opening monologue. Hollywood's so out of touch with the American people, and they can't resist their wokeness. It's their God. So the two movies that got everybody back to the box office virtually completely snubbed, with the exception of a sound award for Maverick. Elvis completely snubbed. But they're like trying to brag. Everybody's back at the theater, and I'm not so certain anymore. And now stores are starting to brag. Well, it looks like everybody's, heading back to shopping, which is a really good sign. And with it, of course, is the shoplifting. So shoplifting is at a record pace right now. And is it shrinkage? What do they call it? They have a term for it. It's so common now that we give it a term like it's a cost of doing business, thievery.
Wow.
And so, the headline starts like trying to celebrate, hey, we're all headed back to the stores. And of course, we've got more losses to shoplifting than we have profit margins in some cases for a lot of the stores. So you're going to, if this is frustrating to you, get used to seeing a lot more things locked up. And, it used to be, it would be a big ticket item. You could go clothes shopping, and until you get to something like $380, you don't notice it's chained up.
Mm-hmm.
And even that's not everywhere, just in certain areas. I mean, now you can't go into a Walgreens and like shaving cream could be locked up or the razors are locked up. Well, expect a lot more. They're locking up their goods and they're using facial recognition software to try to to track down the repeat offenders. Now, I don't want to make everything political, but we have the divided states of America and people get really mad when we're the United States of America. Stop saying that. Well, that's what we're supposed to be. That's our intent, but that's not how we're living. So in some blue states and in most blue cities, this is not allowed. Or, nobody's really enforcing the law. And so this stuff is growing. And what they're doing in those areas is just closing. That's just it. You don't get a Walgreens because we can't have them without everybody stealing. But in areas where that's not quite as rampant, they're going to turn to locking more things up and trying to stop more people.
Have you seen that video of Best Buy when the guy's trying to steal something? He's running out, and this female employee, she's like a safety and drop coverage. She comes back, and I mean, she just shoulder, she's like, no,
she went high.
Yeah,
I would have thought.
Yeah, she went high. Bang.
See, I was an idiot. My nature was to go high. And then I had two friends that were about my size, and they always went low and took people out.
Yeah, low man wins.
I always got concussed. But she went high, and she took them out. That's rare that somebody bothered. But just like our last story, this is living in America. And I think the problem is us. I think it's us. This might be a potential movie. Headline. Giant blob of seaweed twice the width of the United States taking aim at Florida. Dun, 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 dun. Meanwhile, there's somebody going, oh, that'd be great for sushi. A giant seaweed bloom so large that it can be seen from space. Do you think Joe Biden will shoot the seaweed blob? Just shoot it down? Well, it's already down, I guess. Shoot it lower? It's about 5,000 miles wide.
What?
Wow, that's a blob of seaweed. Twice the width of the United States is believed to be the largest in history. It's drifting between... just seriously, wouldn't it be funny? We're all worried about viruses, China, Russia. We all die suffocating on seaweed. For we missed the ancient scripture in the scroll. Thy Lord shall snuff them out with seaweed, for the serpent shall rise from the sea and suck the breath out of the unholy ones. That's a lot of seaweed. It's drifting between the Atlantic coast of Africa and the Gulf of Mexico. The thick mat of algae can provide a habitat for marine life and absorb carbon dioxide. However, the giant bloom can have disastrous consequences if it gets closer to shore. Coral, for instance, can be deprived of sunlight, therefore dead. As the seaweed decomposes, it can release hydrogen sulfide, negatively impacting the air and the water and causing respiratory problems for people in the surrounding area. You got enough problem trying to live by water right now with hurricanes and flooding. Now you got a giant blob of seaweed. Now, if they would make that into the movie, I think people would go back to the theaters. But it's coming to Florida in spring break near you. That's your Living in America update for Monday, March the 13th, year of our Lord, 2023 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Interesting story. I've got kids getting ready to go to college, and we're trying to all figure out what everybody wants to be. Jobs that are threatened the most by artificial intelligence, and we come back after the news in a moment. 9:55 at Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah, I just got your email, Jeff. There was no interview. No interview today. Yeah, he's right there, though, Jeff, if you want to ask him. Jeff emails me 10 minutes ago. And then immediately comes in here. Like, bro, I'm in the middle of doing shit. Like, what the... Oh.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and we're not warming up anytime soon. In fact, maybe just a few more degrees before we start going down again. Full forecast coming up in 2 minutes. President Biden trying to calm fears since the second and third largest bank failures in U.S. history in just 3 days.
President Biden sought to assure Americans that taxpayer dollars are not at risk with the actions being taken by his administration to address problems at Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank. The president said Americans can have confidence in the nation's banking system.
Your deposits will be there when you need them. Small businesses across the country, the deposit accounts at these banks can breathe easier knowing they'll be able to pay their workers and pay their bills. And their hardworking employees can breathe easier as well.
Both banks had FDIC deposit insurance up to $250,000, but some companies had millions of dollars deposited in those banks. Authorities in Mexico say they're searching for 3 missing women from Texas. They vanished more than 2 weeks ago during a trip across the border. Their case came to light after the deadly kidnapping of 4 Americans last week in Mexico. Now officials in Texas have issued a travel warning for spring breakers, urging them not to go to Mexico at all. Matt Rivers is in Mexico City with more.
While some parts of Mexico are incredibly dangerous, many popular tourist destinations are not. The State Department rates popular spots like Cancun or Cabo San Lucas, or even here in Mexico City, a risk level 2 out of 4. That is the exact same rating given to Germany, the UK, and Italy.
Nearly 13,000 people are missing in Tamaulipas, the state that includes Matamoros, but nearly all are Mexican citizens. And right now in Tennessee, legislation to expand gun rights still alive. Fox 17 says a bill that removes authorization for business owners to ban guns on their property and eliminates the criminal offense for those who carry will be heard in the State Senate Judiciary Committee this afternoon. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
May I do a free commercial?
Absolutely, Brother Michael.
Both of you pick up your phones, and I have texted you. Now, I will, in full disclosure, say I've bought art, quote unquote, pictures that, I think real art that I paid for. One was a Noah's Ark 400 edition. I've done a couple of Kincaids. My favorite is one he did when he was still an art student, which is of Christ. I bought a cat and a bulldog at the Plaza in Kansas City, and that's about it.
Hey, the Plaza.
Yeah. But that's about it. Never really been into art, and we have a giant wall in our family room, and we'd been to like furniture stores and places that sell art, and we just couldn't find a piece that we liked, and we strolled in to the Stonebridge Art Gallery in the Factory, and Don and his wife Colleen Metzger run it. And there's beautiful paintings, and of course I'm not really into like real artists, real art, that experience. And Don was just incredible and patient, knowing that it probably wouldn't lead to a sale. He was just like educating us. It was I would have paid tuition for the early experience I had there. And we found one, and what I learned most from him, just if I can cut to the chase, was, because what things would hit you and what wouldn't hit you. And, he's showing me some beautiful pieces, and they were like forests that I grew up in near Mississippi and Louisiana. It just did nothing to me. I pictured heat and bugs and, smells. And I was like, no, that doesn't do anything to me. And he goes, well, but this is what he said that changed my life, Ken. He said, this is what art is. You want to find something that you wish you were standing there. And you will never get tired of standing there. And it clicked with me. So I pointed to this one cityscape and I said, if this was, and it was an unidentifiable city, if this was like a street in Paris on a cold, wet day, with some people, walking maybe with an umbrella, some people eating in like the shops or having coffee and a baguette kind of thing, with the Eiffel Tower in the background, I would love that. Well, he got a hold of the art dealer in New York, who got a hold of the artist in South Korea. And that's all I said. And look what this amazing artist in South Korea created.
It's beautiful.
It finally arrived. Don framed it. It's finally up in my home. Do you know when basketball was on yesterday, I found myself staring at that painting more than the television set. And I thought, Don taught me art. That's art. When you would stand there and wish you were standing there and never get tired of standing there, that's a painting worth having in your home.
Look at the
Isn't
detail,
that absolute?
man.
Yeah,
and if
beautiful.
you zoomed in,
Wonderful.
and that's during the day, and I didn't have it lit. I mean, you could just go crazy living there. And he he turned me on to a whole new way of blowing my money. And I just want to thank him for that. He must think we're the weirdest people in the world because I must have hugged him 3 times. I could not love this piece of art more. I've discovered art at 58 years old. And now all I wish is I had some walls, more walls to put it on. But isn't that a beautiful piece?
Yeah, I wonder what's under the red awning there.
And what's interesting is, some of the detail. Andrea studied at the Sorbonne in France. So, she's like, no, everything's authentic except, there's not many streets with trees like that. He put some trees in there so there'd be some color. But the street lamps and the people, and then it's just...
Oh, there's 2 red awnings.
Yeah, one on either side.
Isn't that gorgeous? You know what I would love to do?
Beautiful.
Now I'd like to have him say, do me downtown Franklin by the Circle.
Be gorgeous.
Or something like that. It'll take me a while to save up.
I will say your cat's kind of stealing the thunder here.
She is good looking.
Yeah.
Just
looking at that home phone.
By the way, this is odd. You're going to think this is crazy, but apparently I really like every artist I liked was from South Korea.
Really?
And there's a woman, I think her name is something Cho. I think I got it right. And she does women. I'm weird this way. When my kids were little, I loved taking pictures of them from behind.
Yes.
When they were walking. There's something about my son from behind or my daughters from behind. And so she does these women, and there was one with a woman with an umbrella that I just loved. But you would really have to motif it. But I've thought about, for my next one, sending a couple of my pictures of my cats and a couple of pictures of my daughter and have him, do my daughters holding an umbrella walking with a cat in each hand. But it's opened up a whole new world, and I can't tell you how much I love this piece of art.
You should have him do that picture of Nick you've got from behind in the batter's box.
Or there's even a better one when he was really little, walking the bridge over by, how could I go blank on our park in Franklin right before downtown? Where Fort Granger is.
Start with a P? I can't remember.
I'm wanting to say Pioneer Park, which was the park I grew up in Chicago. Oh, I can't believe I'm going blank.
Percy? I can't remember.
No, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He was crossing that bridge from behind. That would be a classic.
Oh, that's cool.
To have
I love that.
But, so to Don and Colleen, and mostly Don, who worked with us, you taught us how to buy art. You taught us how to love art. I owe you a tuition. And another big hug. We love our painting. And somewhere in South Korea, there's somebody I really want to hug tight. He made a masterpiece of downtown Paris. I hope he's proud of it. I know we're going to cherish it the rest of our life. And that's your free commercial on this Spring Break, Monday, March 13th. Should I just get Spring Break out of my mind? I'm like paranoid to do serious topics. I don't want to be heavy on Spring Break.
Pinkerton
Park.
Thank you, Super Texter.
Well, Spring Break lasts all month, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean...
All right, so you're gonna have to get it out of your head.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to get out of my. But I had two far and away favorite stories, and I want to start when we come back with this one. And the headline says it all: for Gen Z and for millennials, it's official. This women's rights thing, or whatever this LGBTQ women's right tug of war, it's gone too far, and it's a realistic view. And I mean, you put this together with like Jesus Revolution and a lot of things that we're seeing brewing. This whole wokeness, this whole worldview that is crumbling fast. And we'll get a glimpse of it from the Gen Zs and the millennials next on WTN. News brought to you by At 10:12, we have cloudy skies. Nothing has changed. 39 degrees at the Puffy Muffin in Brentwood. It's 39 to the north in Hendersonville and downtown on Music Road, 39 degrees. It feels like 33. The market, I guess we just needed some banks to close. Dow's up 248, Nasdaq's up 131, the S&P's up 29. All three are in the green. The market is up. I want to talk about Loan Pronto. What if you could be credit card debt free in 10 days? How differently would you sleep? How better would your finances look? How more prepared would you be to afford inflation, assuming you don't rack them back up? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Call my friends. You don't have to do a full home refi. In fact, if your original home refi or original mortgage is in the 2s or 3s, as many of you are, you don't ever want to touch that. But you can still tap into a portion of the equity and get super low payments. The Express Equity Line of Credit program can get done in 7 to 10 days. You got a check for $50,000, $80,000, $90,000 in your hand to do very smart things with. Use that money to pay down high-interest credit card debts or any loans with high interest rates. You can get up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 times we don't even need to do an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi or just bought your home, you can still tap into the equity with this fast and easy program. So stop the madness, use your home to get your house in financial order, and call Loan Pronto today. Stop getting fleeced with those high interest rates. 499-5780, 499-5780 for Loan Pronto, 499-5780, online at loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval. You know, you guys don't have to do magic tricks in there like that. I'm looking at Mac. I look down, I do my commercial, and I look up, and boom. Pen just became teller. It's good to meet you in person, by the way.
Yeah, I think we met in passing a couple times.
I opened you the door, but I mean, never were you actually running the board. I think I said this to you jokingly last week, but I mean, in all seriousness, you're very good. Welcome to WTN, and I'm sure you'll be at NBC in New York in about a month. That's what happens. Every time we identify a great talent, and then boom, somebody snatches them up. But for as long as you're here, you're doing a terrific job.
I appreciate it.
Great to meet you in person.
Yeah,
What's your background, by the way?
Absolutely nothing in radio right now.
This is your first radio job, and you're this good at it?
I wouldn't say that.
Well, this is the hell that is your life. You were fearfully and wonderfully made to do this. Doesn't that suck? And this is what I was fearfully and wonderfully made to do. And doesn't that suck?
You're killing it as far as I know.
No, you are very, very good at what you do. I hope you stay for a long, long time and feel very at home.
Thank you very much.
I forgot who made room for you. Chris, right? I guess Chris makes the opening for him. Chris leaving? Or no, because Chris was doing mostly imaging, wasn't he? Whatever it is, you can never have it. Look, everything passes through your hands. No, you have the most important job right now because all the planning in the world of management and so on and so forth, it's all going to go through your hands before it gets to the ears, and you are flawless, my friend. So it's good to meet you in person. But yeah, that was a little freaky how you did that, Mac. I'm looking at you. I look down to do my commercial. I look up, and then he's, what are you guys, like Penn and Teller in there? I normally don't like to acknowledge when I have favorite stories, but I do. Oftentimes, my favorite stories aren't necessarily the stories of the news cycle, and we could even discuss whether it's really a news cycle, couldn't we? After all, it's my firm opinion, the journalism is dead. All we have are narratives, and behind those narratives, agendas. And then we have competing narratives. So everybody's in their social dilemma, extreme left, extreme right positions, talking only to people that think like them, reading and watching things that only they watch, and sharing among themselves the same things over and over again. So what you have is narratives, agendas, and narrative repeating. We don't have journalism and news consumption anymore. So for me, these are my favorite stories because of what they are, number one, but number two, because it's what nobody else is talking about. And from my perspective, and I could be crazy, and some people think I am, I think this is the real news. Or maybe it's just the results of news. You know, most people look around and they know everything's going in the wrong direction. They know everything's broke. They don't necessarily understand why. And oftentimes they think, oh, it's a failed politician. Or the reverse of it, right? Oh, the solution is a great politician. And I'm not taking a cheap shot at anybody. There are those of you that think Donald Trump is the way, the truth out. He's the only way to a great America. And he's lucky to have you and believing that. By the same token, there were people on the left that think Barack Obama was that. So is it failed politicians? Is it failed It's a failed worldview. And if you don't solve the worldview, you can't solve the policies. If you don't solve the worldview, you can't solve the politician's problem. First of all, your founding fathers' intent were you'd be in charge. You're the hope. You're the intent. You're the solution. Not the governing, the governed. But you freely give that up to do something you think or focus on something you think is more important until the consequence arrives and reaches you. We were watching the Oscars. I can't even call it the red carpet. Did you move again? I am going to come in there and spank. You're both grounded. Stop messing with me and my train of thought. Why are you back now?
I'm sorry. He's still in charge. I'm just doing something real quick. Co-pilot.
You guys keep messing with my head.
I'm sorry.
It's like I told you, I'm changing medications. Don't do this. No, but so we're watching. We can't call it the red carpet now. Did anybody else notice that side story? They got rid of the red carpet.
Yeah. I saw that.
What was that all about? What was the symbolism of that? So now, for whatever reason, we don't want to have a red carpet, so we have red curtains and champagne carpet. I mean, it's all so nuts and weird. But you know what? And I don't mean this mean, and it may be politically incorrect for all I know. I can't tell you how many times I heard, "What is that?" So I had a room full of people, from teenagers to, I guess I'm the oldest, pushing 60. And there were some cases where we couldn't figure out what we were looking at. We didn't even know. Is that a boy? Is that a girl? Is that a man? Is that a woman? We didn't know. We didn't know what it was. It wasn't that we were being critical or bullying. We were just trying to figure it out. That was the number one question. And finally, I made a statement and just got a glazed look from everybody, and they went right back to trying to figure out what it was. But I was like, as Francis Schaeffer once said, you lose God, you lose man. There's no more powerful thing you could ever hear on the radio driving around in your car right now than that. And if you think today is weird, it can get a lot weirder. It can get weird to infinity, just as it can get godly to eternity. Because once you don't have a God, you have a search. You have a hole that is endlessly being tried to be filled with confusion is normal, with illness is health, with down is up. So when we come back, how does it stop? Where does it stop? What's the seed of rebirth? And is it beginning? We might find out with a glimpse of where Gen Z and millennials are in the midst of all this craziness. And we'll get started right there when we come back on Super Talk 99.7 WTM. All right, so let me tell you why I only choose Zero Res. Traditional cleaners, and I'm doing a commercial for Zero Res right now, and I'm looking you right in the eye telling you a traditional cleaner will do a good job cleaning your carpets, but they're not going to stay clean for long, because they're going to use chemicals, shampoos, and detergents, and when they leave, the residue is going to stay in your carpet fiber. It's not safe for kids and pets to play on while it's drying. Best of all, when it's done, you'll be able to feel it for yourself. It'll be crunchy under your feet. That's the residue, and it's a dirt magnet that gathers dirt more quickly. So clean them? Yes. Stay clean? No. Zero Res arrives with science-empowered water. No chemicals, no shampoos, no detergents, no residue left behind. That's why our name is Zero Res. Insanely clean carpets that stay cleaner longer, safe and healthy for kids and pets to play on while they're drying. And the longest lasting right way to clean is by far the affordable way. Look at our March offer to go spring cleaning with. 3 rooms and a hallway, just $129. you'll pay more for one room elsewhere. 3 rooms plus a hallway, $129. Don't forget to ask about our 20% off of air duct cleaning this month as well if you want to get ahead of allergy season. 3 rooms and a hallway, $129 when you call 535-9376 today for the right way to clean Zero Res. 535-9376 or book your appointment online at ZeroResNashville.com.
Major bank failures in 3 days, and another gun rights expansion bill to be debated starting today over at the state capitol. These stories and more coming up at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
2 great reactions. One is from Red. The insanity of the transgendered nonsense will end in sports when a female athlete is killed by a biological male. I hope it doesn't come to that. But he goes on to say, as for Hollywood, at least last night at the Oscars, they gave Best Actress and Best Supporting Actress to somebody that was actually a woman. I mean, I guess that's a start. They tried to be somewhat woke-free. They couldn't resist themselves towards the end of the broadcast. Dave wrote, thanks for sharing. Lose man, you lose God, you lose man, you lose man, you lose what God entrusted to man. Yeah, I mean, that's the result of it. But when you lose God, when you lose the creation story, there is a God, and I'm not God. That's a big defining moment for man. I mean, think of everything. You lose everything. If you lose the creation story, you don't know mankind's place versus the animal kingdom versus the earth itself and the land and the sea and the sky. You lose God, you lose man, you lose all perspective. You lose marriage. You don't understand the role of a man and a woman, a husband and a wife and a father and a mother. All these things get lost. And then collectively and corporately, we start losing our way. So that's what brings us to one of my favorite stories of the day. And there's something brewing, right? We kind of see it with the response to the movie, The Jesus Revolution. We're seeing it with I think the transgenderism. This is the inconsistency of the failed worldview. Now trampling on women's rights, but don't forget who's been trampled long before that, men, manhood. So according to the results, 52%, now it's a majority, 52% of the Gen Zs and 53% of the millennials agree. We have gone so far in promoting women's equality, we're now officially coming out the other end and discriminating against men. This whole scenario is kind of the fascinating, I like to call it the tipping scale. Remember the old-fashioned scales? Put a little too much weight on one side and one on the other. And it's starting to tip. We do the same thing with race, don't we? We do the same thing with multiculturalism. When you celebrate every culture but yours to try to make every culture seen, heard, and felt, eventually you're now discriminating against your culture of origin. To the point where if you're Donald Trump and you just want to put America first, that's considered hatred. Securing your borders in a sovereign nation is considered crimes against humanity. It's insane, right? So you've gone too far. We do the same thing with race. Where you do so much for one race, now you're discriminating against the other. You're so obsessed with transgenderism and the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender movement, now you're trampling on women's rights that are also trampling on manhood in general. And now 52% of Gen Zers and 53% of millennials agree you've gone too far. And all of your attempts to promote women's equality, you're now officially discriminating against men. And this is compared to 46% of Gen Xers and 40% of baby boomers. Now, your first question is, wait a minute, why would traditional baby boomers be less than millennials and Gen Zers? Because, well, I am the last year of the baby boom generation, 1964. Most baby boomers don't work anymore. Most baby boomers were retired before the consequences of all this nonsense actually manifested at the university level, manifested at the hiring level. They're feeling it. That's why their numbers are higher. In fact, many of the questions showed that younger generations were less supportive of the efforts to advance gender equality than the boomers themselves. In Australia, 51% strongly or somewhat agreed with the above statement compared to 41% who disagreed, with 60% of those who agreed being men. Now, I'll tell you, I watched this play out with my kids, and I realize they're the young end of this. They're still in the midst of being indoctrinated, and they're like, this is crazy. And I think, part of it is, this is why it's so important that, faith begins in the home. Example begins in the home. But they're being taught all this stuff. And I don't forget, my first daughter, Anna, was like, I think it's a man's ultimate responsibility to provide. God, in the room. And that was odd coming from a generation that's been indoctrinated since birth to believe no such thing. But this generation, the younger they are, the more they're sensing, or what they're seeing at home doesn't make sense with what they're being taught. And at the very least, they're not appreciating all of this overcompensation. They're seeing the unfairness in it as it's being taught and as it's happening. And these numbers bear it out. The majority of Gen Z, Millennial, and Gen X respondents also agreed that men are expected to do too much to support equality. There's just something about, I know I'm 2 minutes late, there's something about this worldview. It's been progressing, pardon the pun, along, and it's crossed a line. And I don't know if that line is truth is starting to bleed through. I don't know if that line is consequence is starting to arrive, but it's reaching a crumbling point. Now, the minute everybody connects the dots, that this is more than just a failed social movement, more than just failed policies, and more than just failed political agenda. This is a failed worldview. We really might be onto a revival.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and we are not warming up at all. In fact, the temperature stayed at 39 here on Music Row for the past 2 hours. We'll tell you how much colder it's going to get tonight during the full forecast in 2 minutes. President Biden's trying to calm fears since the second and third largest bank failures in U.S. history in 3 days.
President Biden echoed what administration officials said on Sunday, insisting this is not a federal government bailout of Silicon Valley Bank.
No losses will be borne by the taxpayers. Let me repeat that. No losses will be borne by the taxpayers.
The FDIC's Deposit Insurance Fund is funded by fees on banks and then from earnings on their investments. The fund currently has over $100 billion in it.
Right now in Tennessee, Fox 17 says a gun rights expansion bill will be brought up in the state Senate committee today. This one removes authorization of a business to ban firearms and removes the criminal offense for anyone who carries. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
I have a couple of... Oh, that's okay. I have a couple of apologies. One to Pinkerton Park. If I did make that clear, it is Pinkerton Park in Franklin. The other is, Ken, I think we got the story possibly wrong. It was the Christmas truce. Was 1914, and I believe it was the British and the Germans in trenches opposing each other, not Americans, but still people in Britain speak English. So first Silent Night began to be sung in English, and then, but thank you for that clarification. Here's somebody that said, I actually saw last night, what is it? All's Quiet on the Western Front, said it was spectacular. Yeah, I think that's the one. Here's another person, Derek, by the way, who said he enjoyed Everything Everywhere, but doesn't know if that's a best picture. Why? What is a best picture? I had those rumblings too. First of all, Top Gun Maverick was a great movie. Is it an Oscar movie? I don't know. And that's always a kind of like an artsy twist in the Academy's view, and
kind of like, was Black Panther an Oscar movie?
Let me do you this: how many? If we went through the list of every best picture, would you say list how many are your favorite movies? Very few, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, the best movies in the world don't get awards, to be honest with you. Well, and I'd like to stay on record, the best talk show hosts in the world don't ever get awards, or so I'm hoping. Somebody also dissed me on the super text line for not bringing up the Ragin' Cajuns. Well, that's Tennessee, a 4 seed in the East. They'll have the Ragin' Cajuns first up. Vandy getting snubbed, I think, hurt the most. Memphis beating Houston. Houston's still a number 1 seed. Bama, of course, wins the SEC at the Bridgestone Arena. I knew it would come down to Bama and Texas A&M. As boring as that is, it looked like an inevitable 1 versus 2. I think everybody watching felt like Vandy did enough to get in. We all knew Tennessee was getting in. Poor Ken. He doesn't have Oklahoma. He doesn't have Oklahoma State. He doesn't have Tulsa. I don't even think
I don't have anybody.
You don't have Boise. I mean,
I got Oral Roberts.
March Madness has a new definition. He's just plain mad. 10:36, mad and abandoned. 10:36 at Super Talk 99.7 WTN, where the news was brought to you by.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. You often hear me talk about diversification in the investing process, but how do we diversify? Well, we look for things that move in dissimilar fashion historically. Some of those market areas might be really small companies or really large companies, or very growth-oriented companies or value-oriented companies. And one of the things that we find is that when we diversify between these various segments, we can reduce the volatility of the portfolio because they don't move in tandem with each other historically. Now, we can do that in U.S. markets, we can do that in international markets, and in emerging markets. And when we can dampen that volatility, we can help get ourselves a little bit of a better outcome as far as knowing what we might likely have in the future, or how we can take income from our investment portfolio. Now, we also want to add fixed income or bonds to the mix as well. Now, if we know that we need to do this, what's the best way to do it? Well, one of the things that we often teach is this concept of market efficiency. This won the Nobel Prize in economics as well. And it's the idea that if I'm investing in, let's say, small value stocks, if we look at professional managers and their ability to say, hey, should I have this stock or that one or that one, and picking companies or areas of the market, we find that they typically get lower returns than the market does on its own. They just add expense, and they can add a lot of volatility. One of the things we want to avoid is anything that can hurt your returns and increase your risk in the investing process. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or call 615-851-1950.
All right, currently at 10:39, cloudy skies. Temperatures just haven't moved. They finally bumped up 1 degree since we came on the air. I mean, just cloudy and cold. 40 in Franklin this hour, 40 in Mount Juliet, 41 down in the borough. Downtown on Music Road, the statues are naked. The skies are cloudy. It's 40 degrees and feels like 33 at WTN. Market, you would think with all the talk of two banks collapsing, the market would be down, and it could end that way. But right now, the Dow's up 160, NASDAQ's up 130, and the S&P's up to 18. All three are in the green. The market is slightly up at 1040. I'm Michael DelGiorno for Jeff Eddy's Efficient Heating and Cooling of Tennessee. Simply the best and the most affordable. And the best is not my opinion. They do residential, light commercial. They service all brands, all technologies, conventional and geothermal. They're recognized by Rheem, one of the leading brands, as providing customers with the highest level of year-round comfort and service. They're an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. If electric heat and air is your necessity or choice, we're a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi for the best products, pricing, and maintenance. And for everyone, we're A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, licensed, insured, and bonded for your protection. They're the best. Affordable? Well, you should maintenance your air conditioners every spring. Why? Because summer comes, heat comes, it turns on and stays on. It's either ready or it's not. And it cannot exceed $125 a home, no matter how many units you have. I have 3. You may have 4. It doesn't matter. It cannot exceed $125. You get that back in energy efficiency, but you're going to avoid hundreds in repair. We catch things before they break, or by maintaining them, they don't break. And ultimately, you save thousands avoiding replacement. Not too soon to start up your spring maintenance. Whether it's maintenance, repair, or replacement, trust who I trust. Jeff Eddy's Efficient Heating and Cooling of Tennessee. 784-4424, 784-4424, online at efficienthvac.net. Hey, 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 it's Fat Michael. I really wanted the kid to win Best Actor for Elvis. I just don't think there's another human being on the face of the earth that could have made that movie what it was without that performance.
I agree.
If that isn't Best Actor, now, there was nothing more heartwarming than watching Brandon Fraser get it for playing somebody that, everybody's calling a fat guy. I thought he looked great. That's supposed to be a joke because I'm fat. By the way, one of my favorite actors that we never talk about, William H. Macy, 73 years old today.
He's good.
Remember in Boogie Nights when he just finally had enough, walks in the room, takes care of his porn star wife and then himself.
Goodness.
What were you going to say, Mac? I can tell you want to chime in.
Well, have you seen The Whale yet?
I haven't seen The Whale yet. I've heard great things about it. And I presume it's a great performance.
I recommend it to everyone, yes.
He almost had a massive heart attack accepting last night. There were some great acceptance speeches last night. Very, Very humble, very heartwarming.
Good.
Not very woke at all until we got towards the very end. And then it started to mount, and then they just couldn't control themselves anymore. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, anybody that's seen the movie Elvis, my son Nick thinks Tom Hanks should have been nominated because he didn't even know it was Tom Hanks, which I recognize Tom Hanks, even being Colonel.
Yeah.
I always slip and say Colonel Potter, which is MASH. But I knew he was Colonel Parker. But I mean, I just don't know how you can't give Best Actor to, that portrayal of Elvis. But in the end, it ended up being Jamie Lee Curtis getting Best Supporting Actress. Ki Hugh Kwan, which I think stole the show, getting Best Supporting Actor. Daniel Kwan got Best Director, Best Actress. Went to Michelle Yeoh. I mean, as we said, other than Brandon Fraser winning for The Whale, everything else was Everything Everywhere All at Once. It was clearly a theme night. And for the two movies that most people think brought everybody back to the theater, Top Gun Maverick and Elvis, almost a complete snub. Only Top Gun Maverick got Best Sound. Nothing for Elvis, including Best Actor. That's hard to believe. Speaking of a great actor, let's go to Joe Biden. This was last week. And I'm going to play this for very good reason. I played it last week. But again, I think it was Red who said this, and it's true. This is starting to officially be a trend, that the left breaks everything. So when the Republicans fix it, if it's the border, they're called crimes against humanity. If it's tax cuts, they only care about the rich. If it's oil, they don't care about the environment. Republicans get in office and fix everything. The Democrats accuse them of breaking everything, and in The Social Dilemma, half believe it, and The Matrix, half believe it. Then they get in office and break everything, and then turn around and tell you they're the hero for fixing it. And how do they fix it? Using all the Republican things. Now, they got to do some lying along the way to rewrite, not history, almost reality, which Joe Biden attempted to do on the road last week in Philadelphia, as suddenly it is MAGA Republicans who are defund and dismantle the police, not the Democrats, which was their mantra for about 2 years, including the DNC convention, until it destroyed every major city.
And so, folks, look, MAGA Republicans are calling for defunding the police departments and defunding the FBI now. That's a good one. I like that.
I mean, and of course it's ridiculous. You couldn't find a Republican that is for defunding the police or dismantling the police department. In fact, last week I played you a 7-minute montage of cabinet members, vice presidents, presidents, governors, mayors, representatives, senators, all consistently Democrats over a 2 to 4 year period of time. And of course, it was ridiculous when it was happening. One bad cop, along with 3 others watching, all arrested, all convicted, all in jail, doesn't mean all cops are bad. It means those cops were bad. But they used that to create a nationwide movement against all police officers with the call to defund all police departments and dismantle all police departments. And now they got a big crime problem. So you have the president telling you, oh, no, that's MAGA Republicans that want to defund and dismantle. No, that was you all. You broke it. And now by funding it, you claim to be fixing it. Add today's story. Biden is expected to approve enormous oil drilling project in a blow to climate activists. Now, here's the deal. When we do opinion polls, you always make a presumption that all the Republicans are against the Democrat and all the Democrats are for the Democrat, and that's how you arrive at 50%. But that's not true. You see, you're going to see in the coming weeks Joe Biden's polls start to drop. And you're going to assume it's about failing banks, or you're going to assume it's about failed foreign policy. No, it's going to be far left Democrats that are mad at this. He's got a problem within his party doing this, but he's doing it. But that's not the trend I want you to see. I don't think it's the trend Red would like you to see. The Biden administration is expected to soon push ahead with a massive northern Alaska oil drilling project that is forecasted to create thousands of jobs, which he desperately needs, and 600 million barrels of oil over the next 30 years. He needs that to refill the oil he stole from the reserve. But this is, since when are I'll never forget this. Now, this goes back 20 years. We would have these Iron Wars discussions about drilling, and the Democrats would make you think this is pristine land with deers and elk and everything that would be harmed. And, of course, you start seeing pictures of where most of this drilling in Alaska would take place. It looked like the surface of the moon. And when they started drilling and they started doing pipelines, what they noticed is that the animals loved it. And they started repopulating at a higher rate. I mean, it was a complete disaster of narrative for the left. But since when do Democrats support massive drilling in Alaska? Senior administration officials have signed off on a 3 of 5 drilling sites proposed by an oil company, ConocoPhillips, as part of the Willow Project. The Department of Interior will publish the final decision on the Willow Project, but President Biden and senior White House officials have been actively involved in overseeing the approval process. So all indications are it's moving forward, and industry groups, Alaska lawmakers, and local communities urge the president to approve the project for its economic benefits, while activists, of course, are fighting to their deaths to stop it. Of course, the environment. But is this yet another example of what the game the left is trying to play? I mean, I see 2 really big things going on right now that I'm very interested to watch play out. I'm not necessarily predicting how they're going to play out, but I'm watching how they play out. And I don't hear anybody discussing it. I think it's kind of brilliant how the left is attacking Fox right now. Now, I could give you the Fox defense, and I could give you the Fox condemnation or narrative against. I see both sides of this. I mean, what Project Veritas revealed about CNN is what CNN is trying to prove to you happened at Fox. I don't think it's a match. I was very pro Donald Trump, but I've had moments where I thought Donald Trump was wrong. I had moments where I thought Giuliani looks like a nut with his hair melting. I had moments where I thought his attorney never came through with her Kraken. I don't think you've necessarily proved it, but it's a brilliant strategy. If you can destroy Fox heading into a presidential election and turn 30% of their pro-Trump audience against Fox, that's a pretty big narrative gain. And this is the other thing I'm watching. Democrats who reversed and broke everything, now trying to fix it and be a hero, as if they can gain enough Republican votes to make up for the far left votes they're going to lose. And in an attempt to hang on to the White House. And it could work. But I'm fascinated to watch it play out. Since when, last week, have Republicans been for defunding and dismantling police, as Biden lies through his false teeth to suggest? And now suddenly Democrats are all about law and order, serving and protecting, and fully funding first. And now this week, since when are Democrats for drilling in Alaska? This is starting to feel like a trend where the Democrats purposely break it and then want to be heroes for fixing it. And how do they fix it? Reverting to the very Republican policies they overturned. Keep an eye on that. I think it's something fascinating brewing early as we head into a presidential election cycle. Speaking of fascinating, a lot of people like to rant, rave, saber rattle, talk, post online. Some just do. Governor DeSantis is continuing to just do. More in a moment on WTN.
gun rights expansion legislation in Tennessee. Tell you about it at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm going to tell you a true fun story when we come. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about it, but right now I only have about 45 seconds. But for the longest time in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I was considered either a shock jock or some kind of revolutionary activist American that was changing Oklahoma and going to change the country. And of course, all of it was, I'm just rooted in our founding fathers and our intent and the inspiration of our experiment, the Declaration of Independence, and the way, the truth, and the protections through the Constitution. I think I'm just an American. And then one day, I got a hold of the Republican Party platform, which, Ken, this may sound strange to you, I had never read it. And at that point, I think I was 40 years old. And I'm reading the Republican Party platform with Gwen live on the air. And I look at Gwen, I go, holy crap, Gwen. And she goes, what? I said, we're Republicans. That's how much Republicans weren't living what they believed. All I'm being is a Republican. And everybody's reacting to me like I'm Barabbas. It was one of the most human, enlightening moments of my life. I'm here to tell you, I think I'm a no label. It's an actual movement sweeping America. And it's the biggest fear of Democrats that it would catch hold, kind of like the Tea Party was, and they didn't have an answer for it, and it cost them a decade, which would have been a powerful decade. Can you imagine where America would be today with the popularity of Barack Obama, and they were able to maintain control of the House and the Senate? Well, I actually believe he'd be running the world right now, and America would be placed at the globalist feet as a pawn. But it didn't happen, and the Tea Party's a big reason why. What might be the role of the no labels? How about if I do like Gwen and I did, and I read you the platform of the no labels? You may find out like me. We're not Republicans. We're no labels. Next on WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. And you think it's cold right now? Wait until tonight. Full forecast in 2 minutes. Right now in Tennessee, another gun rights expansion bill up for debate. Fox 17 says the State Senate Judiciary Committee takes up Senate Bill 1037, House Bill 746. It removes the authority of a business to ban people from bringing guns on their property, and it eliminates the criminal offense for those who carry. Elsewhere this morning, President Biden trying to calm fears since the second and third largest bank failures in the U.S. since Friday. He says depositors will get back every penny.
President Biden echoed what administration officials said on Sunday, insisting this is not a federal government bailout of Silicon Valley Bank.
No losses will be borne by the taxpayers. Let me repeat that. No losses will be borne by the taxpayers.
The FDIC's Deposit Insurance Fund is funded by fees on banks and then from earnings on their investments. The fund currently has over $100 billion in it.
Karen Travers reporting. Back here in Nashville, get ready to see a new kind of electric scooter. They're similar to bicycles. They've got bigger storage compartments. Channel 4 says the electric vehicle service provider Lime dropped off a fleet of its new seated scooters today. And how about a lesson in manners? A science project by a young student on being polite won first place.
Standing by cash registers at 2 coffee shops, recording requests of 87 people for her science project on manners, 4th grader Catalina Lovecourts, who heard,
"Give me, I want, and the best ones I'll have."
And
the hypothesis was young women had better manners, young men had the worst.
But younger men had the best manners, followed by older women. Older men had the worst manners, followed by younger women. Lovecourts won the science competition at La Mariposa Montessori in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
That's Chuck Sievertson reporting in the latest news. Weather is next.
Make a long story short, us older guys have the least manners.
That's pretty much it.
Why doesn't he shut up? Why is he always interrupting? I'm old. I don't have any manners.
I should have just said, get away from me, boy. You bother me.
You bother me. And are we the fattest too? Any other news you want to reveal about us? Well, the two young punks in the studio in there are feeling really good about themselves right now.
Yeah.
But I think the open mic reveals the truth. I have the most manners. It's 11:04. News was brought to you by... All right, currently at 11:06, we have cloudy skies. We've made no progress with temperature. 39 at the Puffy Muffin in Brentwood, 39 to the north in Hendersonville. It's 40 downtown, and it feels like 33. The market, Dow's up 218, NASDAQ's up 148, the S&P's up 28. All three are miraculously in the green, and the market is slightly up at 11:07. I'm Michael DelGiorno for United Structural Systems. USS has been the go-to company in Middle Tennessee for concrete lifting, water proofing, and foundation repair. They've just simply been the best for decades. Started with Dad, son still runs it. It really starts with us. We walk around our home and we've got to notice things. Moisture in the crawl space or basement and figure out why. A brick that's cracking, a bowing basement wall, or a leaning chimney. Could be nothing, could be something significant. And then none of us got money growing on trees, so what we tend to do is go into denial, but that's getting us in trouble. Because as USS is on your side, time is not. And we don't send a salesman to find something to make money. We send a project manager. He's there to find serious problems or tell you it's just a cracked brick. And that's peace of mind because the inspection and the estimate is free and no obligation. But if it is something serious or the beginning early signs, you'll be glad you caught it early while you have options and affordability. So denial is not getting you anywhere but into trouble, and doesn't cost anything to get peace of mind. We guarantee our best. Seeing something suspicious? Call USS for a free inspection and estimate today. 227-2275. 227-2275. Online at USSTN.com. Well, if you just tuned in, right before the news, I told a funny story. And it is funny because the way everyone was reacting to Gwen and I's morning show in Tulsa was shock jock if they hated us. This guy's the greatest American who ever lived if they loved us. And it was neither. So at the age of 40, and Gwen may have been the same or older, we never reveal, we get a hold of the Republican Party platform and we start reading it live on the air. And I think we were about 8 minutes in when I looked at Gwen. I said, holy crap, Gwen, what? We're Republicans. Because up to that point, and if I had to describe it to you, I wouldn't probably have described it any different then, and that's now 20-something years ago, than I would today. I have no use for Democrats and their failed worldview, their failed policy views. I have nothing, I mean nothing in common with them. I am certainly, by worldview and biblical worldview, an adversary to their humanistic, moral, relativistic, multicultural, woke agenda. So I got nothing in common with them. But I found myself less and less comfortable around Republicans or having no use for them either. And that I couldn't put my finger on. And I finally just said, well, I don't like one because of what they live, and I don't like the other for what it fails to live. So one sin's of commission, the other is sins of omission. Neither are of much use for me. They're sin. That's uncomfortable for a lot of you people to hear. And I think for a lot of you people, you've never forgiven me for that. And that's fine. But I got to tell you, at 40 years old, it was a very memorable moment to finally read a Republican platform and see how much I was doing it and they weren't. And I had a very similar experience this morning. So before the death of journalism, we would say, behind every headline is a story. Behind every story, there's so much to talk about. Well, the headline was, it caught my attention, newest political party on the ballot in 3 states, and it has Democrats terrified. And I'm thinking, well, if the Democrats are terrified of a new party on ballots in 3 states, it's got to be a party similar to the Republican Party. And that's got to be bad news for Republicans. It's going to split their vote, right? So I start reading. A political party has won ballot access in 3 states, aiming to offer voters a viable third-party option for president in 2024. And Democrats are worried the group will act as a spoiler to hand the presidency to the Republicans. Now, everything in my instinct says, if it has any spoiling role, it would be a spoiling role for the Republicans, not for the Democrats, which got me curious to go read about who they are and what they believe. No Labels is a group that claims to want to give voters a non-extreme presidential option next year. Well, you can't just say that because extreme is in the eye of the beholder. I believe in life at conception, and there is no medical proof to disprove that. But check out the Southern Poverty Law's hit list, or Uncle George, who listens, or his henchmen listen every day, Soros. They think I'm hate. They think I'm extreme. They think it's extreme that I believe we're a sovereign nation. And just like I'm a sovereign home and I lock my doors at night because I love my family, not because I hate humanity, I think that border should be protected. They think that's extreme. So I'm like, where are you going with this? Rather than producing a third-party ticket that would defy the overwhelming odds and win, No Label is on track to field a spoiler who would reelect Donald Trump or a Trump-like Republican, said one think tanker. So anyway, all this nonsense of the story aside, I thought, well, let's go find out who they are, right? So I click on No Labels. And then I click on About Us. Should we do it together? You think we'll have a moment like Gwen and I did? What No Labels believes. This moment demands American leaders and citizens alike declare their freedom from the angry divisiveness that's ruining our politics and, most importantly, our country. Nothing is less extreme than that. That is the intent of our founding fathers. That is a realistic view of what we're all experiencing. We must recommit to the fundamental belief and beliefs that have historically united Americans and provided a common understanding of who we are and where we hope to go. Now, remember what we talked about earlier in the show, the Francis Schaeffer quote, you lose God, you lose man. Now, that's a theological 10-hour discussion. And I'm never one to say, trust me. No, go seek, go explore, go find out for yourself. But without God, you will lose man. You will lose your creation place. Without it, you may want to be God. You may become your own God unknowingly. You may not know how God created you and why a man is important, a woman is important, a husband is important, a wife is important, a mother is important, a father is important. You'll lose your way. And that's why you may worship the earth more than mankind. You're different than animals. Universities and K through 12 will try to teach you evolved from the animals, but you didn't. The animals were not made in God's image. You were. There is a clear plan of where you go for eternity, not necessarily the animals. Now, I want to stop right here and say, because the more I read, you're going to be going, Michael, I think I'm a no label. The real question of the day is, what's the difference between a no label and a Republican? The no label plans to live it. What's the difference between Donald Trump and a Republican? Donald Trump chose to live it. Not just say it, do it. But I would also critique right here and say, I would tell you, yes, the reality we're living in is divisiveness and anger, and I cover it daily. And that we must be Americans first, not Democrats first or Republicans first. But a common understanding of who we are and where we hope to go should be found in your Declaration of Independence and in your Constitution as a safeguard. Not a new party. But I was curious. You should be curious to hear more. Here are the enduring beliefs that guide no labels. Beliefs that we hope will once again guide the political and policy choices of our elected leaders. One, we believe in an ethic of mutual responsibility in which both government and citizens owe something to one another. Citizens have a responsibility to contribute to our country in the best way that they can, be it in our economy, their families, communities, civic life. And in return, they have a right to expect the government to be responsible for upholding the law, maintaining public safety, helping care for those who cannot care for themselves. You know, the ones that genuinely fall through the crack, not abuse and create cracks. That's me talking. What have I been saying since I arrived 16 years ago? The two questions we never say out loud, and we certainly never answer, and it's the two answers we're looking for most. What is the proper role and responsibility of the government? And what is the proper role and responsibility of the self-governed? Sadly, in America today, nobody even knows what self-governed means. But I'll tell you, when you figure it out, you'll realize that immoral people are incapable of self-governance. And an elite in control, calling it democracy when it's really a power of control and abuse. That's a perfect storm. So I don't think there's anything in one that is new. It's just going back to our intent and our founding. Why? Because Republicans say it but don't live it, and Democrats rebel against it. So is that a third party? Maybe. We believe in equality of opportunity, in which every American is empowered to get a good education, to pursue their dreams, free from bias or discrimination of any kind, and to go as far as their talents and drive can take them. That's land of opportunity versus land of entitlement. We bastardized it with. Again, I would say, yes, this is returning to our founding intent. Yes, this is what Republicans believe but don't live. And yes, this is everything Democrats are rebelling against. So as you see, as the pattern goes, you're going to go, oh, well, yeah, this should be a worse nightmare for Democrats. But if it has any spoiling effect, it ought to be on Republicans. 3, we believe in Americans' fundamental right to think, speak, worship, and assemble however they choose. We believe the First Amendment to the United States Constitution is first for a reason. Because if we ever lose this right, we lose everything. 4, we believe there is no such thing as something for nothing. And because of this, we believe in the importance of a balanced budget. The growing tendency of both parties to support more tax cuts or government spending with no regard for the impact on the future generations will lead to lower quality of life for our children and our grandchildren and make it harder and harder for America to tackle the future challenges our national, economic, environmental security will demand. 5, we believe Americans being united at home make us stronger abroad. The Chinese Communist Party, Russian government, and other totalitarian regimes that threaten America's interests benefit from and seek to exploit America's internal divisions. In previous eras, American leaders have embraced the idea that politics should stop at the water's edge, and they must do so again. I mean, the more I read this, I realize it's 20 after before you even warn me. I'm 5 in. Now, just like we did with Donald Trump, I would say, I have said this for 6 years now. Somebody show me one thing Donald Trump did that wasn't in the Republican platform or was counter to the intent and spirit of the Republican platform. And the answer is nothing. The difference is, like the many, many cowards before that were all talk, no action, Donald Trump was all action, and then sometimes a little too much talk. I don't know that I'm describing anything different than our founding fathers' intent, the Declaration of Independence, the land of opportunity versus entitlement. I don't know if this is any different than the Democrat or the Republican Party. And it's only birthed and it's only filling a void because the Republican Party, as I've said for 25 years, fails to live. The biggest threat to America, a Republican Party that fails to live what it believes, and a Democrat Party that all too often does live what it believes.
Another gun rights expansion bill headed for debate over at the state capitol today. 2 major bank failures in 3 days. President Biden says everything's going to be okay. I'll give you the details at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
And for a guy that lived through the Great Depression, he should know. I don't always like to get pat on the backs, but I think I deserve one today.
What's that for, Brother Michael?
Well, Mac knows full well that I had 3 goals today. Bash the Oscars, and I didn't. Bash the tournament committee, and I didn't. Though they shafted Vandy, and I'll never forgive them. And then bury Mac with Hannah, which I did not do with that one story. I was going to do a scenario with him to take her out to dinner, wait for her to take the bait and order like a cheeseburger. Oh, what the heck? I'll have the fries. And then Mac purposely order a salad and then bring up hey, did you see that story about women don't push themselves enough with exercise? There's something about trying to get Mac in trouble with Hannah that I make a goal every day.
Yeah,
And do you see how responsible I've been following?
You've been very responsible,
Insightfully going through the stories that really matter, avoiding all 3 of those tendencies.
Yeah.
You guys were afraid of me being without my antidepressants. Well, I guess a fine follow-up to this would be to this whole discussion of the no-label party, which I'll rebuke in saying the Fox story is wrong. But again, I have said from the very beginning, and I think Megyn Kelly made it clear early on in the presidential primary in 2016, Fox is not a conservative network. It's an establishment Republican network. Fox would have loved Jeb Bush. And I'm just being honest about, I don't have a use for any of them. I was having a conversation with somebody. I said, you know what? Narcissism is narcissism. Whether it's Trump or it's Obama, it's the narcissism that's troubling. These networks are all troubling on all sides. I'm not going to get in a big, heavy debate about what the Dominion lawsuit text messages reveal or don't reveal. None of them they're all a part of the problem. It's not an exercise worthy of my time. But I'll rebuke the Fox story in saying, no, the greatest threat to the Democrat Party is a Republican Party that lives what it believes. If they really prioritize their platform, and when they get in office and they get in majority and in power, do it. That's the biggest threat to the Democrats. Or if they have candidates that can win hearts and minds and literally articulate what they believe and what it means for their family. That's their worst nightmare, says the pastor in a church with no amens. Which is why I get to this story. Everybody's talking about this. And, whether it's Donald Trump jumping on Twitter and bashing and celebrating something, or how about Nikki Haley, who jumped into this race by saying, well, I said I'd stay out if President Trump ran, but I decided we're just sick of old people. Well, that's an interesting launch. But talk. Launch. And then there's Governor DeSantis, who just keeps governing and just keeps doing. Why, he's even doing and not talking in travel. While everybody else is doing what they're doing verbally and on talk shows and on news networks, Governor DeSantis just keeps governing. And oh, by the way, he's in Iowa. He just goes back to governing. Oh, and oh, by the way, now he's in New Hampshire. Now, it's a stretch, and it's early, and he hasn't won my vote yet. And I'm going to give everybody a fair crack at it, including my former president, who deserves to get first crack at my vote. But right now, is Ron DeSantis kind of looking like a no-label Republican to you? And might that be what we all ultimately really are? Or is, by and large, most Republicans never going to be able to resist the urge to be talk only, and we have to create a no-label party? We'll explore the DeSantis angle when we come back after the news, which is now.
11:30 on the dot this Monday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Just in time for lunchtime, we have rolling roadblocks blocking the left 2 lanes of I-40 westbound right after Charlotte Pike, Highway 70, exit 201, doing some pothole patching out there. Right now in Tennessee, another gun rights expansion bill headed for debate in the State Senate Judiciary Committee. Going to take it up this afternoon. It takes away a business's authority to ban people from bringing firearms onto their property and removes the criminal offense for people who carry. And 2 major bank failures in 3 days. President Biden promising depositors will get back every penny, none of it taxpayers.
He said that if you have funds inside Silicon Valley Bank or Signature Bank, you will be able to access your money. And President Biden said the money for this will be coming from fees paid for by the nation's banks, as well as the sale of those banks' assets, and not the taxpayers.
Ike Ejaichi reporting, and that's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. You often hear me talk about diversification in the investing process, but how do we diversify? Well, we look for things that move in dissimilar fashion historically. Some of those market areas might be really small companies or really large companies, or very growth-oriented companies or value-oriented companies. And one of the things that we find is that when we diversify between these various segments, we can reduce the volatility of the portfolio because they don't move in tandem with each other historically. Now, we can do that in U.S. markets, we can do that in international markets, and in emerging markets. And when we can dampen that volatility, we can help get ourselves a little bit of a better outcome as far as knowing what we might likely have in the future, or how we can take income from our investment portfolio. Now, we also want to add fixed income or bonds to the mix as well. Now, if we know that we need to do this, what's the best way to do it? Well, one of the things that we often teach is this concept of market efficiency. This won the Nobel Prize in economics as well. And it's the idea that if I'm investing in, let's say, small value stocks, if we look at professional managers and their ability to say, hey, should I have this stock or that one, and picking companies or areas of the market, we find that they typically get lower returns than the market does on its own. They just add expense and they can add a lot of volatility. One of the things we want to avoid is anything that can hurt your returns and increase your risk in the investing process. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or call 615-851-1950.
All right, currently at 11:34, we have made no ground with temperature. It is still cloudy, 39 at the Puffy Muffin in Brentwood. It is 40 to the north in Hendersonville. It's cloudy and 40 downtown at WTN. Feels like 35. Market, Dow still up, but not quite as high as it was. Dow's up 94 at 32,000. NASDAQ's up 109 at 11,248, and the S&P's up 13 at 3875. All three are in the green, but the market is just ever so slightly up at 1135. Well, I'm Michael DelGiorno, and I'm here to talk about pain. It could be back pain. It could be neck pain. It could be knee pain, hip pain, elbow pain. You know, the kind of pain you battle all day long. If it lets you sleep, it's the first thing waiting for you when you wake up. And worst of all, it's keeping you from doing the things you used to love. I always joke, whether it's swinging a golf club or swinging your babies or grandbabies. Well, the Dr. Gill Center, we treat that with no needles and no downtime. And I have no doubt that you've figured out the Dr. Gill Center is chiropractic care, and we're proud of it. It works. But it's so much more than just that. We have state-of-the-art industry equipment like Class 5 lasers, red light therapy, spinal decompression therapy. Dr. Gill was the pioneer in our state. This is a game changer, separation without a scalpel, pinched nerves unpinched, bulging herniated discs repositioned. They're all intended to pinpoint inflammation in the body, reduce pain and swelling, and ultimately accelerate healing. Now, that's important to get you back to doing what you love. And it all begins, and it all begins with an accurate diagnosis because no one can treat you till you have that. $23 covers everything at the Dr. Gill Center. That's going to cover your extensive exam, any and all x-rays and imaging, and your accurate diagnosis. So don't do nothing. Don't settle for a pill. Start with an accurate diagnosis. Call and take advantage of our $23 new patient appointment. New phone number, 882-4838, 882-4838, or online at callmepainfree.com. I like this song better anyway. This is more how I feel. By the way, let's pretend you made a mistake. What if you hit another one? What would it sound like? We'll just keep going. By the way, I filled out my bracket. I know we're not supposed to talk about this on the air without getting yelled at. Mac, have you filled out your bracket yet? I put Mac on the mic for a second. Is our new friend going to do one?
Oh, I'm sure Mason will get one done, yeah.
Did you give him one yet? Mason, we're going to get you a bracket.
I'm down for it.
All right.
Yeah, let's get him a bracket.
His brother Ken done his bracket? I think he's got Boise going all the way.
Boise, really?
Hey, you laugh. Boise's in. I don't have any.
7 or 8 seed,
LSU's
right?
not in. OU's not in.
That's true.
Syracuse is not in. Vandy's not in. I'm still bitter. All right. So here are your top seeds that make it obvious. Alabama's the number one in the South. Purdue's the number one in the East. I think, Houston, best record, number one in the Midwest, and Kansas, number one in the West. I would imagine America is somewhat divided and maybe a little influenced in this particular geographic location towards Alabama, but I'm guessing all of America's viewing Houston and Purdue as the two best, right? You think that's safe? You're Mr. Sports.
Yeah, I'd imagine that and maybe KU, but yeah, I'd imagine those. Yeah.
So,
and after yesterday, I don't know anymore.
We always go to those 12 versus 5s, and I like all of them. I love Charleston over San Diego State. I love Oral Roberts over Duke. I know that sounds crazy.
I know. That's good, though.
But it's a good one.
That is a good one.
These 12 versus 5s, these are where you can get some points early. When we go to the Midwest, this one I'm not so sure about. Drake over Miami of Florida. But crazier things have happened for sure. And VCU over St. Mary, I think it's very evenly matched. And VCU always just manages to win first, second round games. So I believe it or not, I did all 4 12s over 5s.
Wow.
That would be significant. My biggest, if you start looking for sleeper teams, and I don't know that any of these are really sleepers, I've got Iowa State probably going a lot further than people have Iowa State going. I've got UCLA going further than I think a lot of people are going, although you say, well, how that they're a number 2 seed. I have everything in the South and the East kind of going by the numbers ultimately when you get to the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8. And that is, but if I have one sleeper that I've kind of followed through, and that's Missouri. And it's just my respect for what's, and to take a shot, pretty much. So, but I have Bama coming out of the South as expected. I've got Purdue coming out of the East as expected ultimately. Here's where I got the shocker. I got the Longhorns coming out of the Midwest. It's probably going to be Houston, but I went with the Longhorns. And
I could see that.
And I've got Kansas coming out of the West.
Same.
And I got Kansas and Purdue. And what a national championship would
amazing.
that be?
Yeah, that'd be
and
incredible.
I got Bill Self and the Jayhawks with the repeat.
Same here. I got them with the repeat.
You gotta be kidding me!
Against Bama, not Purdue. But right now, we'll see. It's day one. We got time. I'm going to do this over and over.
Do me one favor, though, before I leave. Do we have a copier still up here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Copy that.
Copy this so I can bring it home, and then you hang on to this one.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, I'll copy that.
I know I call myself a Christian. Our little contest that we're doing, is it just for banter or is there an entry fee?
No, I think we just trash
Just for
talk.
banter?
Yeah.
Okay. So make a copy so I have one, because I got to go home and fill one out.
Yeah.
Might as well use that one. But isn't that odd? You love to pride yourself on differing with me.
I know, and now we're actually going to agree on this.
Now, the amazing thing is, any that are wrong on mine will be I jinxed them, not you.
Oh, no,
So
I'm good.
I always can't win for losing.
I think the reason I've got KU winning is because I think they're going to reach the Elite Eight without breaking a sweat. I just think they're not going to be as tired. They're not going to be as not injured necessarily, but you know what I mean? I just think they're going to have a lot of energy.
Yeah, I don't, some of these I don't figure. I mean, Vandy not being in at all.
Yeah.
I know you're going to agree with this, but I think North Carolina could have been a play-in, maybe.
Yeah, I think they could have. Without Baycott most of the year not being healthy, that's a huge factor. And now he's back.
Texas A&M, I think that's a lot of disrespect being a 7 seed. Other than that, I've been griping. What stuck out for you? I have no disagreement with any of the number ones at all.
Yeah, I like the number ones. I think. I'm an alumni from Tennessee, but I think the Vols are too high. I think they should have probably been a 5 or 6. Probably bumped up A&M to a 5 or 6 as well. Tennessee at 4 is just too high. I have them losing right now in the second round to Duke. But also that Oral Roberts Duke first round matchup is looking spicy, so I might.
Oh, so
change
you
that.
went with Duke? I went with ORU.
Yeah, I know it's looking. I might have to change that. We'll see.
How far did ORU go last year when no one saw them coming?
Was it Sweet 16?
I think it was at least Sweet 16.
Yeah,
I don't think they made it to Elite Eight.
Was that last year?
That was last year.
That was last year, I think. Yeah.
And now we see them coming.
Yep. I've got K-State in that
ORU
Eastern.
finished with a 30-4 record. There's only one team in this tournament with a better record than ORU, and I know it's, strength of schedule, but is Houston 31-3?
Yep.
I don't have a lot of respect for East, and I don't know that. I think they beat Duke, and then I think unfortunately after beating Duke, I can't put them beating the Tennessee Vols. I just won't write that.
So you're gonna,
but
have
it could
them,
happen.
But you'll have the Vols beating your Raging Cajuns.
Oh yeah, hands down.
Yeah, okay,
no problem.
Good.
Isn't that funny? We both arrived on.
I know,
campus.
that's crazy. That never happens.
I'm like the Oscars. The Oscars tried to stay, very, not do anything woke.
Yeah.
And they couldn't resist themselves in the closing moments of the show.
That's you with the March Madness.
And then I held off, and now in the closing moments of my show,
bracketology.
Hopefully, Mandis has taken a nap, and I won't get screened. I have never ever taken such a shafting as harder than Vanderbilt. I mean, you just took a beautiful Cinderella story with no conceivable explanation.
Yeah, I just don't get it.
And left them out. And I can think of I can think of about 30, not 30 maybe. Well, yeah, I can think about 30 teams they'd handle.
Well, that's the thing with this tournament, man. I mean, Southeast Missouri State.
Give me a break.
Come on, man.
I don't know what the committee was thinking.
I know.
All right, I did that. I still managed to get you in trouble with Hannah, hopefully, unless she's listening. And bashing the Oscars, well, I mean, they certainly liked one movie, didn't they? Over and over and over again. Although I will tell you, I didn't see anybody, and it sure screams. Oh, Michael, if you're listening, Francis Schaeffer. Just Google Francis Schaeffer. The best way to get Francis Schaeffer, there's it's a trilogy all in one book, and you'll get all of his 3 great works. But Francis Schaeffer was a 70s theologian and commentator on culture. He'd be on my Mount Rushmore of people to study. If you really want to know God and his nature and your place and culture and how we tend to fail as man. But Francis Schaeffer, you know what? I shouldn't assume he's listening. Will you do me a favor and type Francis Schaeffer or Michael asked, please repeat your source?
Yeah, I've got it.
But I haven't seen anybody bash that movie yet. I mean, wouldn't that suck if we all go and watch it and it's like, great.
It's like your favorite movie.
I mean, everything, everywhere, all. And usually most Best Pictures are not great movies. You know that. They just, we ought to get a list of like the last 50-year winners.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah, that's a good idea.
And none of them would be your favorite movies. But some people are being very kind about it. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. It won Best Picture, Best Actor, Brandon Fraser for The Whale. Other than that, it was all that movie. Best Picture, Best Actress, Best Directors, Best Supporting Actor. Jamie Lee Curtis slips in Best Supporting Actress. That movie got up. I think we all consider the top 5 Best Actor or Actress, Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress, Best Director, and Best Picture, and they won all but one, Best Actor, The Whale.
I'm looking back at these, man. It's most of these I haven't even seen most of these movies / heard of.
No, I mean, I only saw, all I've seen in the movie theater since COVID is Elvis, Top Gun Maverick, and Jesus Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved all three. In the case of Elvis.
Yeah, I haven't even seen Avatar. I didn't see that either.
Yeah,
What'd that
I don't get those. I've never even seen the first. But,
really?
But Elvis and Top Gun Maverick are credited with getting people back to the theaters.
100%.
And they all got snubbed last night. In fact, only Best Sound for Top Gun Maverick. Elvis got nothing, including Best Actor.
I was shocked by that.
So, but that's and the Oscars has just lost all relevance. I mean, you know, the whole celebrity thing, and they made us so. Why are some people still typing Pinkerton Park?
2 hours ago.
I remembered Pinkerton Park eventually. What'd they say about Pinkerton Park? I wonder if like 2 hours from now they'll know what I'm looking for in my house. You know, like when you get up, where was I going? Pinkerton Park. Here's one on my thyroid issues. Well, I have no thyroid. Well, you know your talk shows is getting old when we start discussing his medical background. I have Graves' disease. So when I was first diagnosed, the way they handled Graves' disease was they radiated your thyroid and killed it. And then you go on synthetic thyroid. It's funny you said thyroid issues can cause anxiety and depression. So we've got two things. One, my thyroid had drifted very low. And so we did up my thyroid. So it's funny. Appreciate you caring. We're going to first switch the antidepressants. And then if that's it, we're also going to look at some blood work and make sure that the thyroid hasn't drifted high. My audience is very smart. Doctors probably hate all of us. Not even going to mention the Raging Cajuns playing Tennessee. Well, first of all, I went to Louisiana State University, who are the Tigers. Keith Andrews, who is typing this, I believe Keith only went to LSU and his son went to Lafayette. That's how I remembered it. I could have swore, Keith, you were at LSU with us, weren't you? Why are you raging? Now, my brother Bobby went as a graduating high school. We were USL then, but it was Southwestern. But then he dropped out, became a bartender, went into radio, became one of the top radio salesmen in the country.
Oh, wow.
But I will give my brother credit. In his 40s, he went back to Tulane, and we went to his graduation. We about all died. He had all these things around his neck, graduated with all kinds of honors, which, I have thought about doing that. I told my son Nick this, and I'll warn all of you. If Nick chooses the University of Syracuse, I told him I will resign from radio, or I could do my show from there, but I don't think the station would allow that. I'll resign from radio, and I will enroll as a freshman with you, and we will graduate together from the University of Syracuse. You're laughing. I am dead serious.
I know
If he chooses Syracuse, people are going to go, what happened to DelGiorno? He went to college. And I'm going to I'm going to enroll as a freshman.
You're going to live in the dorms with
Nick. No, I'm going to get us a nice house in Liverpool. But, and I'm going to go to the University of Syracuse. And I'm going to do everything. I may even pledge a frat, even though I hate him. Pledge a frat, go to all the games, do the whole college experience, because I never got to do it when I was younger. But the reason I bring that up, I think we would be all much better students older. And, and just mature and ready. And I just, I don't ever stay up at night and go, if I stay up at night thinking anything, I wished I had served in the military. That's it. And I can't go back and do it now. But
what's the one thing that makes you think that? Just that you wish you would have served, that you just...
Well, no, I mean, I have two things that are tempting. One, I was offered the job to be program director of WLS in Chicago, and I probably should have done it, and I could have written my ticket for life. But there was no money in it. And when I was there, it just wasn't the WLS I listened to. And I had just met Andrea. So it's impossible to regret that.
Of course.
I have my wife. I have my children. It's not even a regret. Military, I regret. And I regret it for several reasons. One, I think I would have been a better person coming out. And I was on the campus of Louisiana State University at 17 years old. That's too young to go to college, especially one with 40,000 students. Most days I'd sit home, listen to Christian music, not even go to class. Or I'd go kick field goals. Everybody makes fun of that, but I used to go to the area high school and kick field goals all day. I just didn't have any sense of responsibility. And so I think I don't want to say this part out loud, I think we all owe our country that. I think it all makes us have the proper perspective of those. I don't think we should sit and take for granted our freedoms while others defend them. I think if all of us have the experience of going from high school to the military and then to college and into whatever we want, you keep your priorities in line. And I think my country deserves my service. I wished I had given it. I've had many people from Green Berets tell me what you do has been far more valuable than anything you would have done for 2 to 4 years, perhaps even in the military. You have served your country, and I appreciate that. But I mean, I really wished I would have experienced boot camp, camaraderie, training, and I wished I would have served my country. It's a great regret of my life. So I don't really have this regret of unfinished business with college, but I do think it'd be hilarious to move to Syracuse, New York.
TV show, yeah.
You know, both go in as freshmen and graduate together. I think that'd be a ball.
Nick's friends would be like, it's not bring your parents to school. He'd be like, yeah, no, he goes here.
My wife has a little different opinion of that.
Yeah, Andrew.
She'd like to see a few more years of high earning, but we'll see how it goes. All right, well, we started silly and ended silly, but we gave you a lot of content in between. What are you going to make the podcast today?
Probably your no label segment, right?
Yeah, no label was good. I really think, probably, yeah.
What do you think?
And if you did a second, I love that whole section. I am filled with hope when I'm looking at this research and I'm seeing Gen Zs and millennials going, you went too far. And by the way, this one happens to be on women's rights, but I'll bet you if we did similar research with race, you've gone too far. Now you're racist against whites. Now you're sexist against men. And it's just this momentum that's building for truth, real worldview, real perspective. It's crumbling on all fronts, and it's filling me with hope. I don't think we're gonna need a no label party. I think America's about to revisit and rethink everything we've thought wrong and everything we've rebelled towards. But you're probably right, no labels, just to see if people are, keep an eye on that little fledgling party. I don't think it's anything but Republicans serious about living it, or Americans serious about living our intent, the Declaration of Independence, and our Constitution. And whatever you do, be wise and make the Jayhawks the national champion 2 years in a row. Translation, if I'm a jinx, they're gone in the first round. right, we got a minute and a half left. This is interesting. Michael, military changes people. You probably wouldn't be the awesome personality you are today if you had gone into the military. Don't regret. Listen, I don't regret anything. In fact, I don't even think regrets are biblical. Confession is biblical. Repentance is biblical. God working all things together. Romans 12:1. This is how his will is done despite all of our missteps. It's a fool's game, and I don't play it. But I was just for the sake of earthly terms and analogies. I don't regret not going to college, but I am dead serious when I say if my son chooses University of Syracuse, I will leave and go with him and enroll as a freshman, which, by the way, I've gotten several emails about Rodney Dangerfield's quite famous movie, Back to School from 1986. Yeah, there is the chance I could go back to college and still feel a need to entertain the class. That could be a problem. Maybe I better just stay on the radio. Just like Matt Murphy, my baby brother, should. He's up next. He looks raring to go. Him and Belle, they're plotting. I wonder what my baby brother Matt will say today. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 9, if there is a tomorrow morning at 9. For me, the Matt Murphy Show is next. Don't forget Brian Wilson for the drive home. Plenty of Super Talk on the Superways Super Buy.